Commander Kell's translator device clicked and whirred, struggling to process the chaotic scene before him. Rows of human cadets marched through thick mud, rain pelting their faces as instructors clad in dark green uniforms barked orders, their voices a mix of encouragement and harsh reprimands. To Kell's eyes, this was not training, it was madness. His aide, Lieutenant Varick, watched with equal bewilderment. "Sir," Varick hesitated, his gaze flickering between the drenched cadets and his commanding officer. "Our reports indicated this was one of their premier military institutions." "Perhaps this is normal." Kell crossed his arms, his dark eyes narrowing. "Normal? This isn't training. It's torture." The Kesek, Kell species, valued intellect and advanced warfare tactics, preferring simulations over physical exertion. Yet, what he was witnessing was something else entirely. He had expected a tactical briefing, perhaps a discussion on strategy. Instead, he had stepped into a nightmare of physical endurance and primal suffering. A human officer approached, his uniform soaked, but his expression oddly satisfied. "Commander Kell," he greeted, offering a handshake that Kell hesitantly accepted. "Major Harlow, I'll be your guide today." Kell nodded stiffly, struggling to ignore the unsettling gleam in the human's eyes. "Major, what exactly are these cadets enduring?" Harlow chuckled, his voice carrying over the cacophony of struggling recruits. This is Field Week. Teaches them teamwork, resilience, and how to function when everything's going wrong." Kell turned to Varick, whose antennae twitched nervously. "You call forcing them through filth a character-building exercise?" "Not just any filth," Harlow replied with a grin. "That's premium-grade all-natural, high-quality mud." Kell's mouth opened slightly, words failing him as he watched the cadet slip and faceplant into the sludge. The young soldier didn't hesitate. He merely wiped his face and continued forward. It was as if adversity fueled them rather than broke them. Harlow gestured toward an obstacle course of nightmarish proportions. Towering walls, rope climbs, barbed wire, and trenches of frigid water. This is the Crucible, final test of their training. They go through it sleep-deprived and hungry. If they make it through, they earn their place. Kell felt his stomach turn. "You intentionally deprive them of food and rest." "Absolutely," Harlow confirmed. "It's about pushing through limits. We break them down here, so the enemy can't do it later." The concept was alien to Kell, literally and figuratively. Kesek warriors were trained under controlled conditions. Their bodies kept at peak efficiency through proper rest and nutrition. Here, humans seemed to thrive in suffering. Varick whispered cautiously, "Sir, perhaps we should return to the shuttle." "Not yet," Kell muttered, his curiosity overriding his discomfort. Harlow led them toward a dense forest, where cadets were constructing makeshift shelters. "Survival training," he explained. "We give them a knife and some rope, then leave them out here overnight." "You abandon them?" Kell asked, horrified. "Teaches adaptability," Harlow said, as though it were the most obvious thing in the world. "The environment is the best teacher." Kell watched as a cadet, his hands raw, dug into the dirt to create a fire pit. Another tied branches together with precise movements. These soldiers were not just trained to fight. They were trained to endure the very worst conditions imaginable. They moved on to the live-fire range, where cadets engaged in high-intensity drills with real ammunition. "Keeps them sharp," Harlow explained as bullets rang out across the course. Kell's stomach churned. "You let them handle live explosives? If they don't learn now, they'll learn the hard way in battle." The logic was brutal yet effective. Kesek soldiers trained with simulations, ensuring absolute safety. Yet here, humans seemed to embrace the risk. The tour continued to the close-quarters combat arena, where cadets engaged in vicious hand-to-hand sparring. Blows landed with bone-rattling force. Some fighters collapsed, only to be pulled back to their feet and pushed to continue. "You call this training?" Kell asked, unable to hide his disgust. Harlow's gaze darkened. "Because the enemy won't hold back, Commander. If they can't fight their own, They won't survive real combat. Finally, they reached a facility filled with sleek pods. Virtual combat training, Harlow explained, simulates real war with full sensory immersion. Pain, exhaustion, fear. We make it as real as possible. Kell watched as cadets scream orders, their bodies tense with stress. This wasn't analysis. This was war, experienced firsthand long before they ever saw a real battlefield. Harlow led them into a final chamber, where a cadet sat in a solitary chair, his face set in determined exhaustion. Stress testing, Harlow said. We overload them with crises, forcing them to lead under impossible conditions. As the scenario unfolded, Kell saw the young soldier bombarded with impossible decisions. No matter how much chaos erupted on the screens, the cadet persisted, issuing orders, adapting, refusing to break. When the exercise ended, the soldier slumped in his chair, drenched in sweat. Harlow clapped him on the shoulder. Good job, cadet. You lasted longer this time. Kell turned to Harlow, his voice almost hesitant. Why do you do this to them? Harlow's usual grin faded. Because war doesn't wait for them to be ready. It comes when they're tired, when they're broken. We do this so that when they face the real thing, they won't break. Kell had no response. As he followed Varric back toward their shuttle, he cast one last glance at the academy. Rain poured down, soaking everything in sight, yet the cadets pushed forward unwavering. It was not their weapons or tactics that made them formidable. It was their will. Harlow's voice echoed in Kell's mind. We don't just prepare soldiers to fight. We prepare them to endure everything. As the shuttle lifted off, Kell knew that the Keswick High Council would not take his report lightly. They had underestimated humanity. They had thought of them as mere warriors. But now he understood. Humans were forged in adversity, and that made them terrifying.